Lujan.
Good evening, Guam. I'm Jess Lujan. Welcome to this edition of The Buzz. Exciting show tonight. My good friend, Josh Tenorio, Court Administrator for Guam Courts, basically. He's here tonight. Good evening, Josh. How you doing, man?
Good evening, Jess. It's always good to see you.
It's always great to see you, Josh.
When I see you, I'm always reminded of your mom.
Of my mom?
Absolutely, which is good stuff.
That's good stuff. Okay.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Always
but
good.
Thank you. Thank you very
darling.
much again. Josh, let me ask you. The reason I asked you to come here tonight is talk about the court's efforts, again, to reduce repeat offenders, recidivism, basically, and also this thing on bails and crowded facilities, mostly, at DOC. You guys got a program there. And it looks like it's in concert with the national program.
Sure, and it's on multiple fronts.
Okay.
So the first thing is, one of the big issues that the island is going through, obviously, is the overcrowding at Department of Corrections. And there are inmates there, and there are a large number of detainees there. So part of the attention is, going and taking a look at how long are these detainees in the system, who are they, where do they come from, what are they being charged with? And one of those areas is also taking a look at bail and taking a look at our community and our criminal justice system and seeing what the trends are. Are there high bail amounts? And I think there's people that would argue that that we're very punitive in the pretrial area, where quite a large number of people end up being detained. And then what is the cost of detention? And part of this also, I have to say, is based on some of the pushback, and it's, I think, good that the Director of Corrections has been making about how they're not in the corrections business because they're really dominantly in the detention business.
Housing.
Right, and so I think the first thing is for the courts to feel involved and responsible. And part of that is taking a look at what our own practices are and how it impacts the Department of Corrections.
But not only that, though, because you have to also look. I mean, the other night I was watching a thing on one of the major TV networks and talking to a judge, basically. And they said, I have to look at this person here, whether or not he's going to do more harm when he goes out into the community, or would the community be better served incarcerated? And most of the times, these low offenses are better off within the community rather than being incarcerated. I'm sure that's what the courts are looking at, right?
That's where it
yeah?
should be.
Yeah.
And actually, when there's a call for detention, it really should be based on a public safety concern. But the only way you'll be able to determine if there's a concern is if we are using some screening tools, which I tell you, for the last 40, 50 years, in the justice system, there hasn't been a screening tool, and that's one of the things that is working in some jurisdictions excellently, and it's something that we need to adopt here, and we're in the process of changing our system also. And the reason why I think it's so important is when you look at who the detainees are, or people on pretrial, as much as 67% of them are being now charged with a second offense.
Yeah.
Or a second crime. And so, that is a real high number. And what it tells us, or at least maybe I should say what it tells us we should do, is take a look and see what we're doing and center on those things that are maybe not working as the way that we want it to, or in some cases that are just ineffective.
Now, Josh, let me ask you this, because a great number as well. Not I don't know what the numbers are at this point, but of course we have people coming in here, immigrants coming in here. Okay, some of them, of course, are immigrants coming here based on their applications with immigrations and all that. Others come in based on the Compact of Free Association. Okay. Now, on the Compact of Free Association side, and the Compact states basically that there are some deportable offenses. Okay. Now, where is the court come in here with this? Because in the sense where you have when you talk about recidivism, basically repeat offenders, okay? Now, you're having people coming in and they haven't even been tried yet for their first or second offense. They're coming in for, but when you see something already where there's a pattern, now, can the court come in and help with the process of then deportation for the ones who fall under that?
They have, and they have in the past. So really, there's a couple things probably I want to say that our probation office has been working with immigrations and custom enforcement.
Okay.
And so there are folks that have been convicted that are on probation or that are serving and then will be on probation that have been convicted for those crimes under the federal statutes that that are crimes in which the non-citizen can be deported. And in all those cases, the ICE is already ready and waiting.
Okay.
I think the big group for the cases that are eligible for deportation, it really is going to be a public policy issue where, let's say aggravated rape, or I should say there's aggravated assault and criminal sexual conduct. Where those, for sure, they're violent offenses. And so the AG's office is representing the people of Guam and has to make a decision. Are they going to want this person who's been convicted to stay in our Department of Corrections and serve out their sentence, or is getting them to be deported going to be part of that punishment? And that's something that, so I've seen it in many ways. There's several years ago, there was a period of time in which, in the plea agreements, they'll come up with, a plea agreement, and they'll say that they'll serve up until the time that they're deported, and they'll give them the authority or latitude to process the proceeding and deport them to their country of origin. But there's a large number of them that are serving crimes, and I think one concern in the past, and this has not been something we've talked about this year, the prosecutors have been wanting to make sure that these people are going to serve. They're not assured that they're not going to continue to serve in their country of origin, because there's either no prison or a small prison. And I think when Tony Babato was around, they were talking about Department of Interior building a prison at one point. I mean, the Hawaiians are having the same issues as we are. So that's one issue. But then, of course, there are those that are already citizens and are non-residents or are being convicted for crimes that are not violent and are not there. And, those are also things that we need to take a look at and try and reduce the amounts of them reoffending. And the key, no matter what, if somebody has a job and an education, the likelihood for them to commit another crime goes down dramatically. And so I think what Joe San Augustine says is true. They don't have time to focus on, getting them the GEDs and all that stuff by the time they come out. But the other thing for our community is, are we willing to employ people who have been convicted of a crime? Almost everybody requires a police or court clearance to apply. And I would say that I think you even saw national news where federal employment is going to start removing, at least in the first stage, asking those questions because of the sheer numbers. And in terms of numbers, there are 4,500 adults that are on probation right now. 4,500? That's right. About 2,500 in pretrial and 2,000 in adult. And some of those are dual, Sure. And so the volume, and our population's only 165,000. So, the other thing is taking a look and, somebody gets arrested. I guess Crystal using the story, public intoxication, that's already a misdemeanor, petty misdemeanor. And then maybe they did the DUI second, that's going to be a second one. If they killed somebody, that's a felony. But then they go and serve the time, but nobody really paid attention to the substance abuse issue. Is it cheaper to treat the alcoholism than to put them up there at corrections? These are all the big things. So we're about to launch a reentry court. And these specialty courts, they're on top of, or it's basically just a specialized docket for a day, in addition to all the other judges' cases. But they'll group cases and give them, a set pattern. For reentry, which presiding judge La Morena is leading, is going to go and identify with the parole board and with corrections those people that are going to be coming out. They'll be using a risk and needs assessment tool, which we have no experience doing yet. It's something that we're spending the next 6 months to a year training people, acquiring it, and implementing it. But it's basically to get a big picture. What's going on with this person? When was the first time that they got arrested? When's the first time they used drugs or alcohol? How many offenses? Were there any of them violent? Did they graduate from school? Do they have mental health issues? And they factor in so we can figure out and based on a good program. So the program will develop this year. It's all developing it. Is to try and figure out what kind of incentives we can get to have people complete a GED. I see a lot of them have no high school with them. And then the second thing is substance abuse.
Okay.
And DOC is starting to strengthen their residential substance abuse treatment program. And aftercare, we're going to make a deal with you. We're going to give some resources to you, but you have to follow the program. And there's consequences.
Yeah.
And it's really to look at when people are on parole or in probation on the outside, trying to, prevent them from getting all these violations.
Okay. Josh, we're going to take a quick break. We're not going to have much time, but, I'm going to ask you to come on our radio show as well. Talk more about this because, most of the people don't understand how the court works, really.
Okay.
And
even me, I'm learning some
stuff.
and
likewise, we're hearing what you're saying happening nationally as well.
Yes.
And it's applying to us here. They're looking at the system as well. So I'm going to ask you to come into our radio show to talk about this holistically as well, what we're looking at, and the concerns that people may have about the judiciary system and again, how it works, okay? Because most of us have little to no knowledge about it, okay? Be right back.